I felt like I had embodied Oprah as I was
Nice.
walking through. You get a backpack, you get this bag, you get these stuff, you know. But it was really also for me an an opportunity to feel connected to these humans who were actually my brothers and sisters.
Welcome to Attitude of Altitude podcast, presented by Planet of One. We're sharing stories and conversations, encouraging and empowering listeners to be bold, take action, and be your best self, so we may be the change we desire to see in this world. Know that your attitude determines your altitude in life. Welcome to the podcast. Now, take me back to your wonderful how you launched the links across borders and starting from Canada, because people have to hear that story, how that even got started and what one person is capable of doing. Look
Yes,
what you've created.
thank you. Thank you. Um, so I had been visiting Ghana for 6 years already. I started in 2006 to visit. That was my first time. And then, I spent a month the first time, and my friends, people around me had given me stuff and money to come and, do what I wanted to do here. And I remember coming with all of those things. And as I was visiting the families and giving them the things that I had brought, the school supplies and stuff for the kids. And if you can remember that episode of the Oprah Winfrey show where everybody got a car, you get a car, you get a car,
I
that was
love
me.
that show. Great show.
I, I felt like I had embodied Oprah as I was
Nice.
walking through. You get a backpack, you get this bag, you get these stuff, you know. But it was really also for me an an opportunity to feel connected to these humans who were actually my brothers and sisters. And so that stayed with me. And then and I did a lot that month, staying with different families. I stayed with families I had never met before. The first family I stayed with, I had met Gina on the flight from Germany to Ghana. I was in transit. We got on the same flight in Germany. She asked me what I was doing, and I told her. And then she just thought, wow, you're coming to Ghana to help our children? Here's my phone number. If you need a place to stay, call me. And I called her 2 days later because
For
I
you.
wanted to be with people. And I also thought that if I was staying with her and not spending the money in a hotel, then the money that I had would be benefiting people in the villages where I was staying. And that's how it worked out. It was beautiful. And so returning to Canada at the end of that month, I was on the flight going home and I was crying. My tears were just streaming down my face. There was a part of me that was feeling embarrassed. That if somebody should ask me why I was crying, I would say to them, I'm sad because I'm leaving Ghana. They might think that I have a terrible family life back home when that was not the case. But there was something, Ghana had captured my heart somehow, and I was now feeling like I need to come back, but I had to go home, you know. And so by the time I arrived home, I was planning my next trip to Ghana. And I did that every year until 2012. And then in 2012, as I was having a meeting, a conversation with some community members, I heard myself announce that I would be building a library next year. And it just dropped out of my mouth. I had not thought about it before. I had no plans. I don't know where the money is coming from. I don't know how much money it will take, but I said it. And I am somebody who, if I've said it, I'm doing it. And so the library was now happening. So this was in May, like the end, towards the end of May, because I usually come in May each year. School at the college ends in April, and so I would take off immediately after. And so I'm back at school at the college in September, and and I had this great idea in my heart. It just popped in. So I was doing an introductory exercise with my students. They were first year students who had just come in. And I had, among other questions, I said we would answer this particular question. What would you do if you had $1,000,000? And I encouraged them to think of it as if we have the $1,000,000. So you can fantasize. If you don't have something already in your mind that you would do, you can fantasize, make something up. Nobody's going to judge whether it's a good thing you're going to do or not. And so when it was my turn to share what I would do with $1,000,000, I said to them that I would use part of that million to fund my library building projects in Ghana. And at the end, one student, as soon as I said that, a student raised her hand and she said, "Oh, Miss, can I ask a question?" I said, "Sure." And she said, "Your library building projects in Ghana, is that fantasy or real?" And I said to her, "It's real. I am building libraries in Ghana." Okay. And she said, "I would like to do that." And as she is saying that, then I added, "And next year in the spring, I'm offering an international placement to first year students." And that, now I'm really in trouble because there is actually a process at the college for that to happen. I didn't know what that process was. I hadn't thought about it. I didn't ask anybody. The idea just dropped into my heart and flew out of my mouth. I couldn't plop it back in, you see? And so now the students heard that. And immediately a different student raised her hand and she said, "I would like to do the international placement to Ghana. How do I?" And I said to her, I stopped her and I said, "Okay, since this is not what the course is about, let's talk about that at the end of this class." She said, "Okay." As soon as we had break time, I usually give a break midway through the session, and it was a 3-hour class. So they had a break. She walked over to my table and she was ready to ask about it. And I still didn't know what I was going to tell her. So I said to her, "Let's take a break. You go ahead and have your break. I will also have my break, and we'll talk about it at the end of class." So
allowing you to think.
Exactly. I'm buying time here. And so by the time class ended, Spirit dropped an idea in my heart about what the answer could be. And so I told her when she came, as soon as she approached me, I listened to her question and then I said to her, "Send me your resume and we'll take it from there." Well, I thought her resume was something she would need to go work on. This young woman was ready. Her resume was in my inbox by the time I got to my computer later that day. Yes. And so now I couldn't respond to her right away because I don't know what the next step is. So I held on to it, but it caused me to think of, okay, Sylvia, you must think of a process for this. So I thought, okay, I had done an international placement when I was a student. And so I started thinking about what that process was and I could recreate it. And so I said I would have an information session to start with so that I could tell lots of other students about this opportunity and see who wanted to go. And I had set it for 3 weeks later. Well, I went to the information session. Two people showed up. That's it. Only two people with all my advertising on the walls of the college. However, I had in my inbox 10 resumes of students who were applying for this placement. How come? Because that student who had raised her hand, and then I told her to send her resume, had gone on to tell other students that she was doing this placement. And so they now wanted to do it, and they kept recruiting each other. So I had all these resumes to apply for this placement. By the time I was ready to leave for Ghana, I had 8 students ready and 8 community members ready. I took 16 people with me, my first group of volunteers, on the maiden volunteer experience to Ghana. And then every year following, up until 2019, I've taken volunteers to Ghana to work on library projects. And, watching the transformation that happens to folks who come with me on these to work on these projects, they've not been the ones funding the projects. They're funding, each of them fund their own way to Ghana. Their food, their accommodations, their flight, all of that. But the project itself, I fund it. And sometimes I do fundraising and a fundraising event that helps to bring in some money. And I had my own money because I would always be doing another side hustle. So I'm teaching at the college, but I'm consulting somewhere and I'm facilitating workshops somewhere else. I have lots of skills and expertise, thank God. And so that's how we funded it. Because, the way I look at my life is I'm here to serve. And I would love to think that I will wait until I have $1 million to be able to do the things that I would love to do in the world. But I also knew that I might not ever become a millionaire. And I might not ever have so much money that I am rolling in the dough, so to speak. And so it's easy for me to just take this money and do that. And I wanted to make sure that I am making a difference in the way that my heart wants to. Yes.
You know what's great about this, honestly, Sylvia, listening to you is that you don't need the $1 million. It's wonderful to have the $1 million because it can definitely facilitate things a lot easier and help you reach more people. However,
Yes.
you taking that initiative, when the idea flowed out of you, you
Mm-hmm.
didn't find 1,000 excuses to go, oh, no, 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 I'm not doing that. You looked for the ways to do it. And that
Mm-hmm.
student that also went out there and recruited others, took
Yes.
the initiative because it meant something to them, which
Yes.
is beautiful to see that we do have wonderful human beings that care,
Yes.
that
Absolutely.
don't allow excuses to stop them.
Yeah.
You're
Mm-hmm.
one of them for sure, because you
Thank you.
started this when you had nothing and you
Mm-hmm.
kept going,
And I'm
and
still
now
going.
you actually, and you're still going, and now you're actually living in Ghana. How many
Yes.
libraries have you guys built?
8.
Wow.
8 libraries to date. Yes. And I feel very good about that. Yes, it is a big achievement. To be honest, when somebody asks me, because folks now ask me that question, so how much does it cost to build a library? I can never just give a figure because the truth is, I've never, at the beginning of a project, done a plan where we know it's going to cost 50,000 to build this. It's going to cost us so much for transportation. I've never. And I think, I mean, I'm not saying that it's wrong to do it that way. I'm just telling my process has been different. I think it's because if I know how much it's going to cost at the beginning, I will become too afraid. And I will know that I can't do it. But because I don't know, I take each step that I can take, and each step leads me closer and closer and closer. So, in my talks, I love speaking. I am a public speaker and I love to inspire people. And one of the things that I say to folks in my talk is don't wait to know all the details, because sometimes the details are too scary. Start with the idea that dropped into your heart, because the idea in your heart is not really your idea. It is life's idea. It is God's idea. It is the universe's idea for how it wants to expand and express in the world. It chose you to give the idea to. And if you will act on the idea, you are in partnership with spirit. You're in partnership with the universe. And there's no lack in the universe. So therefore, you will be resourced for that idea. When I started, I didn't have this perspective consciously, but I had it unconsciously and was working with it. So I would take each step, not knowing how the other part is going to come together or unfold, but I just go one step at a time. You see, another thing, that insight that I want to point out from this, my sharing of how it started and that first group that came with me, is that and this is something I also battle with, when we are given an idea to do something, a way to serve, and serving doesn't just mean going off to some distant land. I'm not saying everybody has to be a humanitarian and go do, nonprofit work. That's not what I'm saying. It could be an idea to start a business. It could be an idea to write a book. It could be an idea to leave the job you're in or to go to a job that you're not in because you see what you could do there. But there's an idea for a change that Spirit wants to create through you. When we act on that idea that we've been given, we also are giving somebody else the opportunity to act on an idea or a dream that is in their heart. Those students were new to me. I had not met them before. I didn't know there was somebody in the group who was looking for an opportunity to do an international placement. I didn't know that there were so many others who didn't come to my information session, but had applied because that was something they really wanted to do. And so when we're given an idea to act on, it is because we are supposed to act on that so that somebody else can get to act on something they also have. And it is the way that life wants to create expansion in our world for our transformation, for our evolution. And yeah, I want us to remember that the idea in your heart is an idea from spirit. It's an idea from the universe, and the universe, spirit, God will resource you to act on it, to do what is needed. But you must first say yes to the idea, and you must take the step that you've been given to take.
Thank you for sharing that so much, Sylvia. We just finished a training, you and I, with Evan Carmichael. We'll do a shout out for him. And a
Yes.
big part of it was the 2%, which is what
Yes.
you just spoke of. for people to do the next step. Instead of looking at the whole road, look at the next step,
The next
which
step.
is what stops so many individuals from the things that come to them and only to them to put out into the world. Had you not taken that step, like you said, 8 libraries may not have been built.
No,
These
no.
kids that went with you on these wonderful adventures that served,
Yes.
they wouldn't have gotten that experience. What was that experience like for them? Do you know?
So many over the years. I mean, many of my students and my volunteers stay in touch with me.
Nice.
And over the years, people have gone on. I've had students who, after they return, will say to me, I've I've changed the program I'm doing at my college or my university. Or somebody will say, I this thing has changed in my life. I now see things differently based on such and such. I remember one student, this young man, we arrived in the village that night. Our flight was, we arrived in the evening. By the time we arrive in the village, it's nighttime. Look at this light that is lighting up. It's the light coming in through the window.
Nice. Nice. You're
For,
shining
for
right through.
that's right. And so we arrived in the village and we're sorting ourselves out and so on. And I did a little bit of orientation because I don't do the orientation right away when we arrive because you're not fully here. And I noticed he was just sitting down, not in the hustle and bustle of everyone else. And I walked over to him, tapped him on his shoulder, and I said, how are things going? Are you okay? And he said, yes. I said, you seem rather quiet and distant from everybody else. I just want to make sure, are you really okay? And he said, yes. He said, Sylvia, I'm feeling something. I don't know how to describe it. I said, so I started asking him questions to explore what this is, because I can see that he's trying to, and what is this that I'm feeling? And so I would ask him questions and he would talk and talk. And then a light bulb came on for him and he said to me, you know what I'm feeling? Peace. I am so at peace. I realize I've not felt peace like this before. Sylvia, I'm at peace, he said. It's a young man. He was probably about 19 or 20 years old. He said, what I'm feeling is peace. Yeah.
What an incredible
So
perspective
over
you've given them.
yeah, yes. And before a group travels with me each year, we would go through several sessions of preparation, where I work with folks for us to explore who we are, where are we from, what's some of the baggage that we carry, what are the places in our lives where we have privilege, and where are the places in our lives where we experience or are members of marginalized groups. And then we also think together and investigate what baggage might we be bringing with us, to Ghana, and how that might impact the folks that we will be working with. And so, how do we engage so that we can develop and encourage and support right relationships with people? And so, it really is, for me, it's one thing to talk about violence and talk about privilege and oppression in a classroom or read it in a book or, in some workshop. But this got to be their lab to practice and to experiment and to see what works and what doesn't and how it impacts someone else and how it impacts the self at the same time. And then in the evenings, we would break it down and take it apart. And no one has to feel like, oh, I'm this oppressive, privileged crap. I'm human, and this was my experience today. Let's talk about that.
So to get away from the judgment that we put on ourselves and on others,
Yes.
so that we can start breaking down borders instead of
Yes.
building up more walls around everything.
That's right.
I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, I love doing that. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I would love to know the experience of at least one child that you've seen as they walk into a library that they have never seen a library before.
Oh my gosh. If there is a particular photograph of a young boy when we opened the library in his village, and he walked in and he looked at all the shelves of books, and he was just walking and looking and looking and looking. And then he turned around, and one of the volunteers had their camera on him, and he just went like, whoosh. Like, he was just like, this is my world. All of this is mine. Go ahead, take a picture.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And there are others who walk in, like we do orientation for schools at the end of the project. Even sometimes before we have the opening ceremony, we would invite teachers and students to come in, and we give orientation to the library. And I could look at not only the children, but the teachers, because many of the teachers have not really had access to a library that is like the one we are, opening up now in that village. And to see the look on their faces, the children, as they would touch a book and wonder if they could take it out, from where it is on the shelf. And then they get to take it, and there are lots more books, but one child comes and stands beside the other child to look at this one book because it is so precious, And then when they have the opportunity, when they realize that this is your library and all these books, you have access to them. And the little ones would come in and they would take one book and look at it, and then they watch to see if it's okay. Then they take another one and another one and another, and they would just keep picking up a book and putting it down, and another one and put it down, because it's like saying, I can actually access all of these. Like I could just take any one I want and go read it. And I would say to them, even if you can't read it, doesn't matter. Take the book. And I tell the teachers, allow them to just be with the book. So there are times when I would just have the books thrown around, and children just walk around, pick up a book over there, put it down if you don't want that one. You see another one that catches your attention, go for it. Because I love to see what's happening for them as they engage with the books. And the truth is, I think I'm doing it because I'm selfish. It is what I want to see. It fills me. When I came for the first time, I missed the image of a child sitting under a tree with a book in their hand. And I think I went about creating that. Children, now we have reading clubs under trees. We have libraries, but we say, let's go outside and read. And we sit under trees and we have, just building relationships with books and reading and stories. And that helps children to also find their voice and start telling their own stories. Yes.
You've opened up a world that they could have never seen.
That's
Like you said, as a child, it opened up a whole new world to you. And now you get to do that for a
right.
lot of
Yes.
young individuals, for communities, for a lot of
Yes.
villages.
Yes.
What would you like to see next, Sylvia, for the expansion of links across border? What would you like to see?
Thank you for that question. What I would like to see many people and people with money join me. I'd
Mm.
like that. I am calling that in. So I'm putting that out there. I'd love for people who have money and would like to make a difference here to join me. What I would like to see and why they would join me. This is why they would join me. Because I am mortal. This vision was given to me to carry out, and I am one human being. I've carried it for a long time, and it's working, and it's making a big difference. I will leave a legacy after I'm gone. I want to see this live long after me, and I want other people to carry it on. So I'm here on the ground, and my goal now is not so much to build more libraries, but it is to train people on the ground, young people, to take this on and run with it, to teach youngsters and to teach even teachers how to create programs that they will run, reading programs that they will run through the library, the excursions, the various ways in which we can open up worlds for children so that they can become the best of who they really are. I want that to happen. And here in Ghana, it's not so easy to get folks to volunteer. And it's not because people are not interested to volunteer, it's because unemployment is high. So there are folks with skills and abilities and willingness to serve, but they're looking for work that gives them some money. And so when I say, come and volunteer so that I can train you to do this, they want to, but they're also thinking, I might be missing a paying job right now while I'm here helping. So I would love to have funding so that I can hire some people, even if we only are able to hire one in this village and one in another, but at least if we have folks who feel like I am gaining something, I have some money here, there is some money that I can have for my own livelihood while I'm doing this, then it helps to take it on. I would also love to see more people who want to volunteer come to Ghana and serve with us. Because you're not only, when you're serving, you're not only helping someone else, you're actually helping yourself. You learn things about yourself that you didn't know. You remember who you are in those moments, and you didn't realize that you had forgotten. The transformation, the expansion that you experience is undescribable. There are many brilliant volunteers and students who return from a trip with me in Ghana, and they say, I don't know how to express what I've experienced in words. You just have to go. And so I'm inviting folks to come and join
And I
me.
hope a lot of people hear you and follow you and join you. Because for people to understand that you were born in Jamaica, you grew up in Jamaica, you went to Canada, you lived in Canada for a long time, and by choice, you're choosing Ghana as a place for you to love and serve and be a part of. Because we're all connected.
We're all
All
connected.
connected.
This is the thing. We're all connected. So it's not like I can just be safe and secure because I have enough money and a beautiful house and a nice car. If my neighbor is not doing well, I'm not doing well. We're all connected. We're mirrors for each other. Yes. And when I see poverty in others, I ask myself, where in my life am I poor? There is some poverty there, and it allows me to look inward and see my poverty might not be that of money. It might not be money for you, but where is it in your humanity? Where is it that you are experiencing poverty because of the way you're living your life? And how will you change that? And sometimes participating in this work shows us where we are poor. As I spend my money on helping someone, I get to touch the part of myself where poverty exists. Yes, I might be poor in compassion. I might be poor in patience. I might be poor in self love. Where is the poverty inside? Get curious about that. I
That's
found out
so important.
recently, I
Mhm.
found out recently that where some of my poverty exists was in my own self-love. I felt very, very sick. And it's because I wasn't taking care of myself enough, even as I was serving others. We are mirroring each other. And so when I see a certain condition that's prevailing in my world, it gives me an opportunity as I touch it to touch inside of myself that condition as it exists in me. And it might look different than it looks on the external.
Sylvia, that is such a big statement you just made about the poverty within, because I believe that truly is the underlying cause for a lot of the issues we have in the world, including the beautiful young kids and teenagers that think that suicide is the way because there's so much going on within them that they can't figure out how to work through it. And they need people like you, like a lot of us, to guide them through it, to give them the education system. And that's also the underlying of where we started.
Yes.
People that do domestic violence, people that do sexual abuse and all that. There is a poverty within our
Yes.
humanity that we're working on. And the best part of it is we're the ones that can change it.
Yes, we can change it.
It's within all of us to be able to do that. And thank you for opening the eyes to the world for people to see that they can make a difference.
Yes.
Is there
Thank
anything that you'd like to share that I have not asked you? Because I could talk to you for hours and hours. Is there anything
you.
that you still would like to say that I haven't asked?
I I really thank you for this time. I want to say thanks for this time. Some of what I said here I hadn't thought about before.
Mm.
So it gives me an opportunity to allow insights to come out of my mouth as they come into my heart. And I get to share that. So thank you. And I just want to say to your listeners, whatever the change is that you want to create in the world, be it your personal world, like yourself, your family, your work, or it is a change in the wider society, take the first step. You have what it takes to do it. Take the first step, and the rest of it will unfold. Help is available to you to do that. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that great advice. And to our wonderful viewers and listeners, I hope you heard all the incredible nuggets that Sylvia has shared with us, that we can all make a difference. And it's taking the step instead of looking at the whole road. Remember, our attitude determines our altitude in life. And for us to change our humanity and who we are as beings, it takes each one of us becoming a better version of ourselves and taking the steps to keep moving us forward. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And please follow us and listen to the next video. Thank you so much. Actually, Sylvia, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
They can go to my website and see there
Links
that
across
back there,
borders.
links across borders, yes. And it's linksacrossborders.org. And they can find Sylvia Morrison on Facebook and on Instagram. And my work website is sylviamorrison.com.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you, listeners.
Thank you.
We'll see you in the next episode.